I am Maya, 34 years old, and I work as a data analyst in Seattle. You ruined my life, Maya. You are a witch. You are going to pay for this. That was the sound of my husband Jason screaming at me over the phone just 3 hours ago. I could hear the distinct wail of police sirens closing in on him in the background. His voice, usually so smooth and arrogant, was cracking with terrified desperation. He sounded like a trapped animal. I sat there on the edge of my bed, holding the phone away from my ear, listening to the man I had loved for 10 years unravel completely. A small, cold smile touched my lips. I did not say a word. I just listened until the line went dead. But to understand why I felt absolutely no pity for the father of my child as he was being handcuffed, you have to go back exactly 24 hours. You have to see me standing in the fluorescent glare of a CVS pharmacy, thinking my life was perfectly normal right before the ground opened up and swallowed me whole. It was raining in Seattle. It is always raining in Seattle, but last night felt different. The rain was heavy, cold, and relentless. My 8-year-old daughter, Lily, was sitting in the back seat of our old Honda CR-V wheezing. Her chest was rising and falling in that shallow, terrified rhythm that every parent of an asthmatic child knows too well. She had left her inhaler at school, and the attack had come on fast. I had rushed her to the nearest pharmacy, my hair plastered to my forehead, my heart hammering against my ribs. I ran to the counter breathless and slapped my prescription card down. The pharmacist, a kind older woman named Barbara, who knew us, worked quickly. She handed me the rescue inhaler and a spacer. I grabbed it, my hands shaking, and inserted my chip card into the reader. I waited for the beep. I waited for the approved message so I could run out to the car and help my daughter breathe. Declined. The machine let out a harsh buzzing noise. I stared at the screen. That was impossible. It was payday. My paycheck had hit the account that morning. I wiped the chip on my jeans, thinking it was just wet from the rain, and inserted it again. Declined. A line was forming behind me. I could feel the impatience of the people waiting. Heat rose up my neck. I apologized nervously and pulled out my debit card. This was the joint account card, the one we used for groceries and household bills. There was always at least $5,000 in there as a buffer. I typed in the PIN, insufficient funds. My stomach dropped. It felt like I had missed a step on a staircase. I looked at Barbara. Her eyes were filled with pity, which made it worse. I fumbled for my wallet again. I had a secret emergency savings account, a high-yield savings account I had been building for years. It was connected to a debit card I rarely used. I pulled it out. This was the nuclear option. There was over $20,000 in there. Declined. Zero balance. I stood there frozen. My daughter was in the car gasping for air, and I ostensibly had 3 different bank accounts with healthy balances, yet I could not buy a $50 inhaler. The world started to spin. The buzzing of the lights seemed to get louder. I looked at Barbara, tears welling in my eyes. I told her I did not understand what was happening. I told her my daughter was in the car, and she could not breathe. Barbara looked at the line of people, then looked at me. She reached into her pocket, pulled out her own credit card and swiped it. She told me to go take care of my baby and pay her back later. I wanted to hug her, but I just grabbed the bag and ran. Before I tell you what I found out when I called the bank from that rain-soaked parking lot, I need to ask you something. Have you ever stood at a checkout counter knowing you have money, only to have the machine tell you otherwise? Have you ever felt that cold spike of fear when your financial safety net vanishes in a single second? Let me know in the comments below if you have ever had a card declined when you needed it most. I sat in the front seat of the Honda, watching Lily take a deep puff from the inhaler. Her breathing slowed. The color returned to her cheeks. She closed her eyes and leaned back against the seat, exhausted. I let out a breath I did not know I was holding. Then I dialed the bank. My hands were trembling so hard I could barely hold the phone. I went through the automated system, pressing 0 aggressively until I got a human being. A woman named Sarah answered. I tried to keep my voice steady. I gave her my security questions. I asked her why my cards were declined. I asked her if there was a fraud alert. There was a long silence on the other end of the line, the kind of silence that makes the hair on the back of your arms stand up. Sarah told me that there was no fraud alert. She said the transactions were declined because the accounts were empty. I laughed. It was a hysterical, dry sound. I told her that was impossible. I told her I was a data analyst. I tracked every penny. I told her there was $40,000 in the joint checking, $20,000 in my savings, and $125,000 in the 529 college savings plan for Lily. Sarah cleared her throat. She sounded uncomfortable. She told me that earlier that morning at 9:15 a.m., Mr. Jason Miller had come into the downtown branch. She said he had provided all the necessary identification and authorization as a joint account holder. She said he had requested a cashier's check for the total balance of the checking account, the savings account, and he had liquidated the 529 college fund. I felt the blood drain from my face. My extremities went numb. I asked her to repeat the total amount. She said the total withdrawal was $185,000. I asked her why. I asked her how he could liquidate the college fund without my signature. She said he claimed it was for an emergency real estate investment opportunity that required immediate cash. Since his name was on the accounts as a custodian, he had the legal right to move the funds. I hung up the phone. I did not say goodbye. I just let the phone drop into my lap. $185,000. 10 years. That money was 10 years of my life. I looked at Lily in the rearview mirror. She was asleep now, clutching her worn-out teddy bear. I looked at the dashboard of my 2014 Honda. The check engine light had been on for 3 months. Jason drove a brand-new leased Audi, but I drove this clunker because I was saving for Lily's future. I remembered every lunch I skipped. I remembered cutting my own hair to save salon money. I remembered wearing clothes from Goodwill so I could put an extra $500 a month into that 529 plan. Jason always mocked me. He called me cheap. He called me boring. He said I did not know how to enjoy life. He would come home with new watches, new golf clubs, smelling of expensive cologne, and tell me I needed to loosen up. I had swallowed his insults because I had a goal. I wanted Lily to go to Stanford or Harvard. I wanted her to graduate without the crushing student debt that I was still paying off. I had built that safety net dollar by dollar, sacrifice by sacrifice. And in one morning while I was at work, analyzing spreadsheets, Jason had walked into a bank and wiped it all away. I tried to call him, straight to voicemail. I texted him, no delivered receipt. I started the car and drove home. I drove on autopilot. My brain was refusing to process the magnitude of the betrayal. Maybe he really did find an investment. Jason was a real estate agent. He was always talking about the next big flip, the next big deal. Maybe this was a surprise. Maybe he was going to double our money. I tried to gaslight myself because the alternative was too horrific to consider. When I pulled into the driveway of our rental house, the rain had picked up. It was pouring. And there, sitting on the wet concrete of the front porch, were boxes, my clothes, Lily's toys, my books, our bedding. They were getting soaked. I parked the car and stepped out into the rain. I did not run. I walked slowly toward the porch. I saw my favorite sweater, a cashmere blend I had bought on sale 5 years ago, lying in a puddle of mud. I saw Lily's art supplies scattered across the lawn. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, shielding the screen from the rain. It was a text from Jason. Finally, I thought. Finally, an explanation. He is going to tell me he is sorry. He is going to tell me he is moving us to a new house. He's going to tell me the boxes are out here because the movers are coming. I opened the message. It was a photo. It was a selfie taken in the first-class cabin of an Emirates flight. I could tell by the gold trim on the seats and the champagne flutes. Jason was holding a glass of champagne, grinning that charming, crooked grin that had made me fall in love with him a decade ago. But he was not alone. Leaning on his shoulder, holding her own glass, was Tiffany. Tiffany was his 23-year-old personal yoga instructor. I knew her. I had paid for his sessions. I had welcomed her into our home. I had made her tea while she stretched my husband's hamstrings in our living room. She was young, glowing, and looked incredibly expensive. She was wearing a diamond necklace that I had never seen before. Below the photo was a text message. It was long. I read it standing in the rain, the water running down my screen, blurring the words. Maya, I know you are probably freaking out right now. Do not bother calling. By the time you read this, we will be halfway to the Maldives. I'm sorry it had to end like this, but I cannot do it anymore. I cannot do the penny pinching. I cannot do the boring suburban life. I deserve to be happy, Maya. I deserve someone who understands my ambition. Tiffany gets me. She makes me feel alive in a way you never could. Regarding the money, do not think of it as stealing. Think of it as a retroactive salary for the 10 years I spent tolerating your mediocrity. Consider it the price of my freedom. Do not try to find us. You are a smart girl. You will figure something out. You always do. Goodbye. I stared at the phone. I read the line about my mediocrity 3 times. My mediocrity, I was the one who paid the rent when his commissions were dry. I was the one who managed the budget. I was the one who cooked, cleaned, and raised our daughter while he was out networking at bars until 2 a.m. My phone rang again. It was a local number. I answered it, my voice sounding robotic. It was our landlord, Mr. Henderson. Mrs. Miller, he said, sounding agitated. I am calling because I just stopped by the property to put up the for lease sign, and I saw you in the driveway. I assume you are packing up the last of your things. I asked him what he was talking about. He paused. He said Jason had called him 2 days ago. He said Jason had told him we were moving to California for his new job. He had paid the lease break fee and terminated our rental agreement effective immediately. Mr. Henderson said he had already signed a lease with a new tenant who was moving in on Monday. That was 48 hours away. He said Jason had told him the house would be empty by tonight. I looked at the pile of wet boxes. I looked at the dark windows of the house I had made a home. I looked at the car where my sick daughter was sleeping. I had no money. I had no home. I had no husband. The man I had trusted with my life had not just left me. He had meticulously, surgically dismantled my entire existence. He had planned this. He had been planning this for weeks, maybe months. While I was cooking dinner, he was planning. While I was helping Lily with her homework, he was moving assets. While I was sleeping next to him, he was dreaming of the Maldives with a woman 10 years younger than me. A sound escaped my throat. It was a guttural, raw sound of pure animal pain. I dropped to my knees in the mud. I clutched the phone to my chest and screamed. I screamed until my throat tasted like blood. I screamed for the 10 years I had wasted. I screamed for the college fund I had sacrificed for. I screamed for the betrayal that felt like a physical knife twisting in my gut. But as the rain washed over me, mixing with my tears, something happened. The screaming stopped. The tears stopped. I looked up at the gray Seattle sky. I thought about the text. You are a smart girl. You will figure something out. He was right. I was smart. I was a data analyst. I found patterns for a living. I solved problems that other people gave up on. Jason thought he had won. He thought he had left a broken, helpless woman crying in the driveway. He thought he was safe in the Maldives with his yoga instructor and my money. He forgot one thing. He forgot who actually handled the technical setup of every device in our lives. He forgot who knew his passwords. He forgot that while he was busy looking at himself in the mirror, our daughter Lily was watching him from the shadows, absorbing everything. I stood up. I wiped the mud off my knees. I was not going to cry anymore. I walked back to the car, opened the door, and looked at my sleeping daughter. I'm going to get it back, I whispered to her. I'm going to get it all back, and then I'm going to burn his life to the ground. I got into the driver's seat. I had one phone call to make. I was not calling the police, not yet. I was calling the one person Jason was truly terrified of. I was calling his sister-in-law, my brother's wife, Keisha. Keisha was a corporate litigator who ate men like Jason for breakfast. I put the car in gear. The game was not over. It had just begun. The drive back to the house felt like a funeral procession of one. The windshield wipers of my old Honda were fighting a losing battle against the Seattle downpour, slashing back and forth with a rhythmic squeaking thud that echoed the pounding in my temples. Lily was quiet in the back seat. Too quiet. She was clutching her seatbelt, her eyes wide and fixed on the back of my headrest. She sensed the panic radiating off me, even though I tried to mask it with a calm I did not feel. When I turned the corner onto our street, my stomach tightened. I prayed that I was wrong. I prayed that the landlord had been mistaken, or that this was some twisted, sick joke. But as our little rental house came into view, the headlights cut through the gloom and illuminated a scene that made me slam on the brakes. The front lawn looked like a landfill. It was not just boxes. It was our life. It was 10 years of memories, clothes, books, and toys all heaped onto the wet grass in a chaotic, careless pile. The cardboard boxes were already sodden, collapsing under the weight of the relentless rain. Black trash bags were split open, spilling our clothes into the mud. I put the car in park, but I could not move. I just sat there, gripping the steering wheel, until my knuckles turned white, staring at the destruction of my sanctuary. This was the home where I brought Lily back from the hospital. This was the home where I had cooked thousands of meals, and now it looked like a crime scene. Mommy Lily's voice was small, trembling. "Is that my stuff?" Her question broke the paralysis. I unbuckled my seatbelt and scrambled out of the car. The rain hit me instantly, cold and sharp, soaking through my blouse within seconds. I ran toward the pile, my boots sinking into the muddy lawn. It was worse up close. I saw my wedding album lying face down in a puddle. The leather cover was warping, the pages swelling with water. I picked it up, and a photo slid out. It was me and Jason cutting our cake, smiling like we had the whole world at our feet. I looked at his face in the photo, then I looked at the house. The windows were dark. The locks had already been changed. He had not just left us, he had erased us. I frantically started grabbing things, trying to shield them from the rain, but it was futile. There was too much, and the water was everywhere. I saw my college diploma framed in glass, shattered against a rock. I saw the quilt my grandmother had stitched for me before she passed away, now heavy with mud and water. Then I heard the car door open. "Lily." "No," I screamed, turning around. "Stay in the car." But she was already running. She was not running to me. She was running toward a small, soggy lump of brown fur near the curb. It was Mr. Cuddles, her teddy bear, the one she had slept with every single night since she was 2 years old, the one she whispered her secrets to. Jason must have grabbed it from her bed and tossed it out the window like it was garbage. Lily scooped up the bear. It was dripping wet, covered in grass clippings and dirt. She hugged it tight against her chest, ruining her own clothes, and looked up at me. Her face crumpled. She did not scream. She just started to sob, a silent, heaving sob that shook her tiny shoulders. "Oh, honey," I whispered, rushing over to her. I fell to my knees in the mud and wrapped my arms around her and the wet bear. I tried to shield her from the rain with my body, but we were both already soaked to the bone. "Why did Daddy do this?" she asked, her voice muffled against my shoulder. "Why does he hate us?" The question felt like a physical blow. How do you answer that? How do you tell an 8-year-old that her father does not hate her, he just loves himself more? How do you explain that we are collateral damage in his pursuit of a midlife crisis? I did not have an answer, so I just held her, rocking back and forth in the rain, feeling a rage building inside me that was hotter than any fire. I needed to do something. I needed to fix this. I stood up, pulling Lily with me, and guided her back to the car. "Lock the doors," I told her, my voice hard. "Do not open them for anyone." I sat in the driver's seat, water dripping from my hair onto the dashboard. I grabbed my phone. My fingers were slippery and shaking, but I managed to dial Jason again. It rang once, twice. Then it went straight to voicemail. "You have reached Jason Miller. I am busy making moves. Leave a message." I hung up. I dialed again. This time, it did not even ring. The operator voice came on immediately. "The customer you are calling is unavailable or has blocked this number." He had blocked me. He had thrown his wife and child out onto the street in a storm, stolen our life savings, and then blocked my number so he would not have to hear the consequences. The cowardice was breathtaking. I stared at the phone. I had one option left. I did not want to do it. I knew what they were like. But I was desperate. We had nowhere to go, no money for a hotel, no family in Seattle besides them. I dialed my mother-in-law, Eleanor. Jason's parents lived in a large, comfortable house in Bellevue, just 20 minutes away. They had a guest room. They had money. Surely no matter what they thought of me, they would not let their granddaughter sleep in a car. The phone rang 4 times. Finally, Eleanor picked up. "Hello." Her voice was clipped, icy. "Eleanor, it is Maya," I said, trying to keep the hysteria out of my voice. "I know who it is, Maya. We have caller ID." "Eleanor, please. You have to help us." Jason. Jason took everything. He emptied the bank accounts. He ended the lease on the house. Lily and I are standing in the rain. All our things are on the lawn. We have nowhere to go. Please, can we just come over for the night? Just for Lily." There was a pause. I heard the clink of china in the background. They were having tea. They were warm and dry. Maya Eleanor sighed, the sound dripping with disappointment. "We spoke to Jason this morning. He told us everything. He told you he stole our money," I asked, incredulous. "He told us he was taking what was rightfully his," Eleanor corrected sharply. "He told us how unhappy he has been, Maya, how you have suffocated him with your penny pinching and your lack of ambition. A man like Jason needs to fly, and you have been an anchor around his neck for 10 years. I gasped. I could not believe what I was hearing. "Eleanor, he is with a 23-year-old yoga instructor. He left his child. He is with someone who appreciates him," Eleanor snapped. "And as for Lily, Jason said he will send for her once he is settled. He is a good father. He just needs a break from the toxic environment you created." Toxic environment. I screamed, losing control. I worked 2 jobs. I paid off his gambling debts 3 times. I raised his daughter while he was out drinking. "And look where it got you," Eleanor said, her voice dropping to a cruel whisper. "Look at yourself, Maya. You are hysterical. You are unstable. Frankly, I do not think it is safe for you to be around Lily right now." My blood ran cold. "Are you saying you will not help us? I am saying that you made your bed and now you have to lie in it. Do not come here. If you show up on our property, Arthur will call the police. We support our son. We support his pursuit of happiness. Good luck, Maya. Try not to ruin Lily's life any more than you already have." The line went dead. I lowered the phone slowly. The silence in the car was deafening, broken only by the rhythmic drumming of the rain on the roof. I looked at the house again. The dark windows seemed to be mocking me. I looked at the pile of trash that used to be my life. I felt a cracking sensation in my chest. It was the sound of my naive belief in decency shattering. I had thought that if you played by the rules, if you were a good person, if you worked hard, the universe would protect you. I thought family meant something. I was wrong. I was completely, utterly alone. I looked in the rearview mirror. Lily was watching me. She had stopped crying. She was just watching, her eyes wide and intelligent. She saw her mother begging. She saw her mother being rejected. She saw the reality of our situation reflecting in my eyes. I took a deep breath. The air smelled of wet asphalt and pine needles. "I am not a failure," I whispered to myself. I repeated it louder. "I am not a failure." Jason wanted me to break. Eleanor wanted me to disappear. They wanted me to crawl into a hole and die of shame. They thought that without their money and their approval, I was nothing. But as I sat there, shivering in my soaked clothes, I realized something. They had taken my money. They had taken my home. They had taken my past. But they had made a fatal error. They had left me with the 2 things that actually mattered. They had left me with my daughter. And they had left me with nothing to lose. I wiped the water from my face. My hand brushed against the steering wheel. My grip tightened. The despair was still there, heavy and suffocating, but underneath it, something else was starting to spark. A cold, hard resolve. I turned the key in the ignition. The engine sputtered, then roared to life. Mommy Lily asked softly, "Where are we going?" I looked back at her. I did not smile. This was not a time for fake smiles. "We are going to Auntie Keisha's house," I said. "But you said Auntie Keisha is scary," Lily whispered. I looked at the rain lashing against the window. I thought about Jason in first class. I thought of Eleanor sipping her tea. "Yes, baby," I said, putting the car in gear. "She is scary, and right now scary is exactly what we need." I pulled away from the curb, leaving the sodden pile of memories behind in the dark. I did not look back. The Maya who lived in that house, the Maya who saved coupons and begged for affection, died on that lawn. The woman driving the car was someone new, and she was going to war. My finger hovered over the contact name, Keisha Vance. Keisha was my older brother's wife, but she was more than just family. She was a force of nature wrapped in designer silk and unshakable confidence. While I was the quiet girl who followed the rules, Keisha was the one who wrote them. She was a senior partner at one of Seattle's most aggressive corporate litigation firms. She specialized in hostile takeovers and high-stakes divorces. People did not just respect Keisha, they feared her. We had never been particularly close. She always thought I was too soft, too accommodating to Jason's whims. She had warned me years ago that Jason had the eyes of a liar, but I had defended him. I had told her she was being cynical. Now sitting in my freezing car with my homeless daughter, I realized Keisha had been right all along. And that terrified me. Calling her meant admitting I was the fool she always said I was. But I looked at Lily shivering in the back seat and swallowed my pride. I pressed the call button. She answered on the first ring. Vance speaking. Her voice was sharp, professional, devoid of warmth. She was probably still at the office billing $600 an hour. Keisha, I choked out. It is Maya. There was a pause. The background noise of typing stopped. Maya, she said, her tone shifting instantly from business to alert. Why are you crying? I told her everything in a rush of words that I could barely control. The declined cards, the empty accounts, the text from the plane, the boxes on the lawn, the call with Eleanor. I waited for the lecture. I waited for the "I told you so." I waited for her to point out how stupid I had been to trust him. Instead, there was just the sound of keys jingling and a chair being pushed back. Send me your location, Keisha commanded. Do not move. Do not talk to anyone else. Lock your doors. I am coming. 20 minutes later, the darkness of our street was pierced by blinding white LED headlights. A massive black Mercedes G-Wagon roared around the corner, splashing water high into the air. It did not slow down gently. It surged toward my Honda and screeched to a halt right next to me, effectively blocking the street. The driver's door opened. Keisha stepped out. She was not dressed for a rescue mission in the rain. She was wearing a cream-colored power suit that probably cost more than my car and 6-inch Louboutin heels. She did not have an umbrella. She did not care. She slammed the door of her truck and marched toward me, the rain pelting her impeccable bob cut. She looked at the pile of sodden boxes on the lawn. She looked at the for lease sign. Then she yanked open my driver's side door. I looked up at her, my face swollen, my mascara running down my cheeks. I started to apologize. I started to say I was sorry for dragging her into this mess. Keisha reached in, grabbed my chin, and forced me to look her in the eye. "Stop it," she said. Her voice was not loud, but it had the weight of a gavel striking a judge's bench. She reached into her purse and pulled out a silk handkerchief. She wiped my face, her touch firm but surprisingly gentle. "Wipe your tears, Maya. Crying does not deposit checks. Crying does not pay retainers. And crying sure as hell will not get your money back." She looked past me at Lily in the back seat. Her expression softened for a fraction of a second. "Hey there, Lil Bit," she said to Lily. "Pack up your bear. You are riding in the tank with Auntie Keisha." She turned back to me, her eyes hardening into dark obsidian stones. "Get your purse. Leave the rest. We will send movers for whatever is salvageable tomorrow. Right now, we are leaving." "But where?" I stammered. Eleanor said, "I do not give a damn what that old witch said." Keisha cut me off. "You are coming to my house. And listen to me carefully, Maya. Jason thinks he has won. He thinks he has broken you. But he made a mistake. He messed with a Vance." She straightened up, ignoring the rain soaking her suit. "I am going to make him wish he was never born. I am going to strip him of everything he owns, everything he loves, and everything he hopes to be. By the time I am done with him, he will be begging for a jail cell just to get away from me. Now get in the car." The drive to Keisha's estate in Mercer Island was silent. The interior of the G-Wagon smelled of expensive leather and vanilla. The heated seats warmed my frozen bones. Lily fell asleep instantly in the back, lulled by the safety of the heavy armored vehicle. Keisha did not speak. She drove with one hand on the wheel, her eyes scanning the road, her mind clearly already calculating moves on a chessboard I could not even see. When we arrived at her home, it was like entering a different world. The gates swung open automatically. The house was a modern architectural marvel of glass and steel, overlooking the dark water of Lake Washington. It was cold, imposing, and utterly impenetrable. For the first time in 24 hours, I felt safe. Keisha got us inside. She did not offer tea or sympathy. She ordered takeout from the most expensive sushi place in the city, showed Lily to a guest room that was bigger than my entire apartment, and set her up with a massive TV and a warm blanket. Once Lily was settled, Keisha turned to me. "Kitchen Island. Now. Bring your laptop." We sat at the marble counter in her kitchen. The lighting was dim, focused on the surface where Keisha had already set up her own laptop, a tablet, and a legal pad. She poured herself a glass of red wine, but she did not pour one for me. "You need a clear head," she said. "Drink water." She cracked her knuckles and opened her laptop. "Give me his social security number. Give me his email passwords. Give me everything you have." I hesitated. "Isn't that illegal?" Keisha looked at me over the rim of her designer glasses. "Maya, he stole $185,000 from his wife and child. That is grand larceny. That is wire fraud. That is financial abuse. We are past the point of being polite. We are in the discovery phase. Now give me the passwords." I gave them to her. For the next 3 hours, the only sound in the kitchen was the furious clicking of Keisha's keyboard and her occasional murmurs of disbelief. She was not just looking at bank statements. She was performing a forensic accounting deep dive. She was tracing IP addresses. She was pulling credit reports. She was looking at shell companies. "Look at this," she said, turning the screen toward me. I looked at the spreadsheet she had compiled. It was a timeline of transactions going back 6 months. "He did not just decide to leave yesterday," Keisha explained, pointing a manicured nail at the screen. "Look here. 6 months ago, small withdrawals, $200, $500, cash advances at casinos." "Gambling," I whispered. "Online poker," Keisha corrected, "and sports betting. He was losing, Maya. Badly." She scrolled down. "3 months ago, he took out a second credit card in your name. Did you sign for this?" "No." I gasped. "Forgery." Keisha noted, typing it onto her legal pad. "That is a felony." She kept scrolling. "And here is where Tiffany comes in. 2 months ago, payments to a luxury travel agent, payments to a jewelry store. He was buying her diamonds with your paycheck, Maya." I felt sick. I covered my mouth, trying not to vomit. But this Keisha set her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "This is the smoking gun." She pointed to the transaction from that morning, the withdrawal of the college fund. He marked it as an emergency investment withdrawal to bypass the immediate tax penalty withholding. He claimed the beneficiary, Lily, had a medical emergency requiring experimental treatment abroad. "He used Lily," I asked, my voice trembling with rage. "He used our daughter's health as a lie to steal her future." "He did," Keisha said. She closed the laptop with a snap. "And that is why we are going to bury him." She stood up and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, looking out at the rain. "He thinks he is smart, Maya. He thinks he covered his tracks. But he is sloppy. He is an addict and a narcissist, and they always make mistakes." She turned back to me, a predatory smile playing on her lips. "He forgot about the custodial laws in Washington state. He forgot that once money is designated for a minor, it belongs to the minor, not the custodian. He did not just steal from you, he stole from a protected class." She walked back to the counter and put a hand on my shoulder. "We are going to file a freezing order tomorrow morning. We are going to report the identity theft. But we need more. We need to know exactly where that money is sitting right now before he launders it into an offshore account in the Maldives." She sighed, looking frustrated. "I can track the withdrawal, but I cannot see where it landed. The bank blocked the destination account number for privacy. Unless we can get into his actual banking app, we are stuck waiting for a subpoena, and that could take weeks. By then, the money will be gone." I slumped on the stool. "So we are stuck." Keisha nodded slowly. "Unless he wrote it down somewhere, or unless he was stupid enough to leave a device logged in, we are blind." I looked at the dark screen of my phone. I felt the hopelessness creeping back in. We were so close, yet so far. Jason always kept his phone locked. He never wrote down passwords. He was paranoid. Keisha poured herself another glass of wine. "Go to sleep, Maya. We will fight again in the morning. Maybe he will slip up. Maybe he will post a picture of his credit card on Instagram like the idiot he is." I nodded and stood up to go check on Lily. I walked down the long hallway to the guest room. The door was slightly ajar. The blue light of the television flickered on the walls. I pushed the door open gently, expecting to see Lily asleep, but she was not asleep. She was sitting up in the middle of the massive king-size bed surrounded by pillows. She was holding something in her hands. It was not her teddy bear. It was an iPad, an old cracked iPad with a Spider-Man sticker on the back. I froze. I recognized that iPad. It was Jason's old one, the one he had tossed in the discard pile in the garage months ago when he upgraded to the Pro model. I had let Lily have it to play Roblox thinking it was wiped clean. Lily was tapping the screen with intense concentration. Her small face was illuminated by the glow. "Lily," I whispered, "what are you doing? You should be sleeping." She looked up at me. Her eyes were not sleepy. They were bright alert and filled with a strange kind of excitement. "Mommy," she said, her voice steady. "I found something." I walked over to the bed. "What did you find, baby?" She turned the iPad toward me. "I was playing my coding game," she said. But then a message popped up. It was from Daddy's bank. My heart stopped. I looked at the screen. It was not a game. It was the email app. The old iPad was still logged into Jason's personal email account. He had forgotten to sign out. And there at the top of the inbox was a transaction confirmation. But that was not what Lily was pointing at. She was pointing at the sent folder. "Mommy," she said, "why did Daddy send money to the doggy fund?" I frowned. What Lily tapped the screen. "Look, it says saved payee. He tried to send the money to Tiffany Love, but look at the account number underneath." I squinted at the screen. I saw the name Tiffany Love, but below it the routing number and account number looked familiar. They looked incredibly familiar. "That is not Tiffany's account." Lily said, a small, mischievous smirk appearing on her face. "That is my account." I stared at her. I stared at the iPad. I felt the room spin. "What do you mean your account?" "I changed it," Lily said simply, "last week, when Daddy left his phone on the counter while he was in the shower. I used the replacement trick I learned on TikTok. I swapped the account numbers in his saved payees." She looked up at me, waiting for a reaction. "I thought he was sending money to buy her presents," she explained. "I did not want her to have presents. I wanted to save it for my college." So I made a detour. I stood there stunned into silence. My 8-year-old daughter, the child who still slept with a teddy bear, had just committed the most sophisticated interception I had ever seen. I turned around and ran back down the hallway. "Keisha," I screamed. "Keisha, come here. You are not going to believe this." The despair was gone. The fear was gone. The game had just changed, and the player holding the controller was not Jason. It was not Keisha. It was not me. It was Lily. The silence in Keisha's kitchen was heavy enough to crush a person. It was not a peaceful silence. It was the suffocating, dense silence of a war room after a losing battle. We had spent the last hour going in circles. Keisha had explained the legal reality to me, and it was grim. She told me that even with her reputation, even with her connections, the legal system was a slow-moving beast. She said we could file an emergency motion for a temporary restraining order on the assets tomorrow. She said we could drag Jason into court. She said we could eventually garnish his wages. But then she looked me in the eye and told me the truth. She said that if Jason was determined to hide that money, if he moved it through enough shell companies or converted it into untraceable cryptocurrency, we might never see a dime of it again. We could win the lawsuit in 2 years, but a judgment on a piece of paper is worthless if the defendant has spent every cent. I sat on the high stool staring at my reflection in the dark granite countertop. I looked exhausted. My eyes were red-rimmed. My hair was a mess, and I was wearing a sweatshirt that belonged to Keisha because my own clothes were still damp and smelling of rain. I felt a wave of nausea roll over me. I thought about the text Jason had sent, the arrogance of it, the way he had dismissed 10 years of marriage as a transaction. He had not just stolen our money, he had stolen my time. He had stolen my youth. And now, according to the best lawyer in Seattle, he might actually get away with it. I looked over at the living area adjacent to the kitchen. Lily was sitting on the oversized beige sofa. She looked so small in that massive room. She was wearing a pair of oversized pajamas Keisha had found, and she was eating a bowl of Lucky Charms. The crunching sound of the cereal was the only noise in the room. She had the old iPad propped up on her knees. The screen was cracked in the corner, a spiderweb fracture that Jason had caused when he dropped it months ago. Instead of fixing it, he had just bought himself the newest model and tossed this one in a junk drawer. I had fished it out for Lily, put a heavy-duty case on it, and it became her dedicated device for cartoons and her coding games. I watched her tap the screen. Her face was illuminated by the blue glow. She looked peaceful. She did not know that her mother was contemplating a future of bankruptcy. She did not know that her father was currently sipping champagne in a first-class cabin, flying away from his responsibilities. I felt a fresh stab of pain. I wanted to protect her from all of this. I wanted to be the strong mother who fixed everything, but right now, I felt like a failure. Keisha sighed, breaking my trance. She closed her laptop lid halfway. She rubbed her temples. She said we should try to get some sleep. She said that looking at the same spreadsheets was not going to make the money magically reappear. She said we would go to the courthouse first thing in the morning and file the paperwork. She said we would fight, but we had to be realistic. I nodded. I knew she was right. There was nothing more we could do tonight. "Mommy," Lily's voice floated across the room. It was casual, conversational. It was the tone she used when she wanted to ask if she could have a second scoop of ice cream. I turned on the stool. "Yes, baby." She did not look up from the screen. She took another spoonful of cereal, chewed thoughtfully, and then spoke again. "Why did Daddy send all the money to the Doggy Protection Fund?" The room went dead silent. I frowned. I looked at Keisha. Keisha looked at me. Her eyebrows were furrowed. "What did you say, Lily?" I asked, sliding off the stool. Lily finally looked up. She had a milk mustache. She pointed a small finger at the iPad screen. "The email," she said. "I am on Daddy's email, the one he never logs out of. A receipt just popped up. It says transfer successful. But the name of the place is weird. It sounds like a place for puppies." I felt a jolt of electricity run down my spine. I walked toward the sofa. My legs felt heavy. Keisha was right behind me, her heels clicking sharply on the hardwood floor. I sat down next to Lily. "Show me," I whispered. Lily tilted the iPad toward me. The screen was sticky with sugar, but the text was clear. It was indeed Jason's personal email inbox. He had not used this iPad in months, but he had never removed his accounts. And because the device was connected to Keisha's high-speed Wi-Fi, it had refreshed the inbox automatically. There at the very top of the list was a bold notification from the bank. "Transaction alert, wire transfer initiated." I tapped the email to open it. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. The details loaded. It was a confirmation of the transfer Jason had made that morning. The amount was there. $185,000. The origin account was our joint checking. But the destination? I stared at the destination field. It did not say Tiffany Love. It did not say some offshore shell company in the Cayman Islands. It said Vanguard Custodial Roth IRA, FBO Lily Miller. I blinked. I read it again. FBO meant for benefit of. I looked at the account number. It was not a random string of digits. It was an account I recognized. It was an account Jason had opened 5 years ago when he was going through a brief phase of being a responsible parent. He had put $500 in it, forgot the password, and never touched it again. It was a custodial retirement account for Lily. I looked at Lily. She was watching me with big, innocent eyes. "Mommy," she asked. "Is the money for a puppy?" I looked at Keisha. Keisha was leaning over my shoulder reading the screen. Her eyes were wide, her mouth was slightly open. For the first time since I had known her, the great Keisha Vance looked stunned. She snatched the iPad from my hands. She scrolled down. She checked the timestamp. She checked the routing number. Then she started to laugh. It was a low, guttural laugh that started in her chest and erupted into the room. She laughed so hard she had to hold onto the back of the sofa to keep from falling over. I was confused. I was terrified. "Keisha, what is it? What is happening? Why is the money in Lily's retirement account?" Keisha looked at me, tears of mirth streaming down her face. She pointed at Lily. "Ask her." Keisha gasped. "Ask your daughter what she did." I turned to Lily. "Lily," I said, my voice trembling, Did you touch the iPad before this email came in? Lily shrugged. She looked a little guilty, like she had been caught sneaking cookies. Well, she started twisting a lock of her hair around her finger. I was playing my coding game last week. You know, the one where I learned to swap variables. And Daddy left his phone on the kitchen counter while he was in the shower. It was unlocked. I held my breath. And I saw he was setting up a new person to send money to, Lily said. It said Tiffany. I know Tiffany. She is the lady who makes Daddy stretch. I do not like her. She never says thank you when I give her drawings. Lily frowned, remembering the slight. So I used the text replacement trick, she continued. I saw it on YouTube. I went into his settings. I made it so whenever he types Tiffany Love in his banking app, it actually puts in the number for my old saving account, the one he showed me a long time ago. She looked up at me, seeking approval. I wanted the money to go to my college mommy, not to the yoga lady. So I swapped the numbers. I thought maybe he would send me $20 for a toy. She looked back at the screen. But he sent a lot more than $20. I sat there frozen. My brain was trying to process the magnitude of what she was saying. My 8-year-old daughter, using a trick she learned for coding and pranks, had effectively hijacked a wire transfer. Jason, in his arrogance and haste, had not checked the account number. He had just selected the saved payee name, Tiffany Love assumed it was correct, and hit send. He thought he was sending his golden parachute to his mistress. Instead, he had wired every single cent of our life savings into a federally protected, locked custodial account that belonged to his daughter. Keisha stopped laughing. She wiped her eyes and looked at Lily with pure, unadulterated reverence. Do you realize what this means? Keisha said, her voice dropping to a whisper. I shook my head, still in shock. It means he cannot get it back, Keisha said. She grabbed my shoulders and shook me. Maya, listen to me. A custodial Roth IRA is a fortress. Once the funds are deposited, they are the legal property of the minor. The custodian, Jason, can manage the investment, but he cannot withdraw the funds for his personal use. If he tries to take that money out now, especially after emptying the other accounts, the IRS and the FBI will flag it immediately as embezzlement and tax fraud. Keisha's eyes were gleaming. He is locked out, Maya. He sent the money to a vault that he does not have the key to. And the best part? She grinned a shark-like grin that made me pity Jason for the first time. The best part is that he does not know yet. He is on a plane. He thinks the money is waiting for him in the Maldives. He is going to land, try to access his funds, and realize he is broke. I looked at Lily. She had gone back to eating her cereal. She had no idea she had just checkmated a narcissist. She had no idea she had just saved our lives. Mommy Lily asked, her mouth full, Does this mean we can get a dog? I pulled her into a hug. I hugged her so tight she squeaked. I buried my face in her hair, smelling the rain and the strawberry shampoo. I started to cry, but this time they were not tears of despair. They were tears of relief, tears of victory. We can get a dog, baby, I sobbed. We can get 10 dogs. Keisha was already back at the kitchen island. She was typing furiously again. I am drafting a letter to the bank, she said, her voice sharp and commanding. We are going to flag the account for suspicious activity just to be safe. We are going to make sure that account is frozen so solid that not even a blowtorch could open it. And then, she paused and looked up at me. And then, we are going to wait. We are going to let him land. We are going to let him walk into that hotel. We are going to let him order the most expensive bottle of wine on the menu. I stood up. I walked over to the counter. I felt a strength returning to my body that I had not felt in years. The victim was gone. The crying wife was gone. And then what I asked. Keisha smiled. And then we are going to watch him burn. But first, I need to make a phone call. I need to call my contact at the district attorney's office. Because what Jason did, emptying the accounts and leaving the state, that is abandonment. But attempting to withdraw from a child's custodial account, if we play this right, we can frame his attempt to retrieve the money as a federal crime. I looked at the iPad one last time. The email was still there. The evidence of Jason's stupidity and Lily's genius. I picked up my phone. I saw the blocked number of my husband. I saw the hateful messages from his mother. I put the phone down. I did not need to call them. I did not need to beg. I had the upper hand. I looked at Keisha. "Do it," I said. "Call the DA, call the bank, call everyone." I looked at Lily, who was now playing a game where she was a knight fighting a dragon. The dragon did not stand a chance, but there was still one problem. Jason was out of the country. He was effectively out of reach of local law enforcement. He could disappear. He could run. Keisha seemed to read my mind. "Do not worry about the Maldives," she said. "The United States has a very specific extradition treaty with them when it comes to financial crimes involving minors. But we do not even need that." Why, I asked. Because Keisha said, pointing to the transaction date on the iPad. "Look at the settlement date. It takes 48 hours for a wire transfer of this size to fully clear and become available in a new account type." She tapped the screen. "He is going to land in 12 hours. He is going to try to spend money he thinks he has. He is going to swipe that card, and it is going to decline." I finished the sentence, realizing the symmetry of it. "Exactly," Keisha said. "Just like you at the pharmacy. Only this time he won't have a nice pharmacist to help him out. He will have the Maldives police, who really do not like tourists who cannot pay their bills." We sat there in the kitchen, 3 women of different generations united by a secret that was flying through the digital ether, waiting to detonate in the face of the man who had underestimated us all. The night was no longer dark. It was full of possibilities. And for the first time, I was not afraid of the storm outside. I was the storm. It started last Tuesday. Lily began her voice steady and surprisingly mature for an 8-year-old. She sat cross-legged on Keisha's expansive sofa, the old iPad resting on her knees, looking like a miniature judge delivering a verdict. I asked her what she meant. I asked her to walk me through exactly what happened step by step. I needed to understand how my child had managed to outsmart a man who prided himself on his cunning. Lily told me that she had been practicing her coding. She was taking an advanced online course for kids called Python for Spies. The module she was working on was about variables. The teacher had explained that a variable is like a box. You can write a label on the outside of the box like toys, but inside the box you can put anything you want. You could put rocks in a box labeled toys. If someone only looks at the label, they will think it is toys. They will not know it is rocks until they open it. Lily said she liked that idea. She liked the idea of secret things hidden in plain sight. Then she told me about the night she decided to become a spy in her own house. It was late, around 9 o'clock. I was in the laundry room folding Jason's shirts, trying to be the perfect wife. Jason was in the living room. Lily was supposed to be asleep, but she had come downstairs to get water. She saw Jason standing by the kitchen counter. He was not alone. He was holding my blue notebook. My stomach lurched when she said that. The blue notebook was where I kept everything. My passwords, my social security number, the details of the life insurance policies, and the account numbers for the college fund. I kept it hidden in the back of the pantry behind the flour jars precisely because I did not trust anyone with it. Lily said she watched from the shadows of the hallway. She saw Jason flipping through the pages. She saw him take out his phone and take photos of the pages. He was moving fast, looking over his shoulders, sweating. She said he looked like the bad guys in her cartoons. Then his phone pinged. It was a loud, cheerful chime that cut through the silence of the house. Jason jumped. He put the notebook down and picked up his phone. Lily said she crept closer. She wanted to see who was messaging Daddy so late. She hid behind the kitchen island. She was small enough that he could not see her, but she could see the reflection of his phone screen in the dark window above the sink. A message popped up. It was a picture. Lily said it was a picture of a lady in a bathing suit. It was the yoga lady Tiffany. Lily knew Tiffany. Tiffany had come to the house for private sessions. Lily said she did not like Tiffany because Tiffany called her kiddo in a voice that sounded fake, and she once kicked Mr. Cuddles the teddy bear when she thought no one was looking. The text message under the picture said, "I can't wait for the Maldives, baby. Are the funds secured?" Lily said she watched Jason smile. It was a mean smile. He typed back, "Almost. Just need to clear out the accounts. The old hag won't suspect a thing." I felt the blood drain from my face as Lily repeated those words. The old hag. That was what he called me, to his mistress. Lily said she felt a fire in her belly. She wanted to run out and scream. She wanted to hit him, but she remembered her spy training. The first rule of being a spy is observation. You do not strike until you have a plan. So she waited. Jason put the phone down on the counter. He rubbed his face. He muttered something about needing a shower to wash off the guilt. He turned and walked up the stairs. He left the phone unlocked. This was the moment, the window of opportunity. Lily said she waited until she heard the shower turn on. The pipes in our old house were loud. Once the water was running, she knew she had about 10 minutes. She ran to the counter. She had to climb up on a stool to reach the phone. She picked it up. It was heavy in her small hand. She saw the banking app was open. Jason had been setting up a new payee. He had typed in the name Tiffany Love. He had entered a routing number and an account number that he must have copied from a text message. He had saved it. Lily stared at the screen. She saw the transfer he was setting up. It was scheduled for later in the week. She knew what she had to do. She knew she could not just delete the transfer. Jason would notice. If she deleted it, he would just do it again. If she changed his password, he would reset it. She needed to do something he would not notice until it was too late. She remembered the lesson about variables, the box and the label. She knew the label on the saved payee was Tiffany Love. Jason trusted the label. He would not check the contents of the box every time. Lily opened her own notes app on Jason's phone. We shared an iCloud family account, so her notes were synced to his device. She found the note where I had made her type out her own savings account details for practice. It was the account for her custodial Roth IRA. She copied the long string of numbers. Then she switched back to the banking app. She went to the Manage Payees section. She tapped on Tiffany Love. She tapped Edit. She did not touch the name. The name stayed Tiffany Love. She went down to the account number field. She deleted the numbers Jason had typed. She pasted her own numbers in. She went to the routing number field. She changed that too, matching it to the bank that held her IRA. Then she hit Save. The app asked for confirmation. Do you want to update the details for payee Tiffany Love? Lily pressed Yes. She put the phone back exactly where it was on the counter. She wiped the screen on her pajama shirt to remove her fingerprints. She jumped down from the stool and ran back to her room. She said she lay in bed listening to the water stop. She heard Jason come downstairs. She heard him pick up the phone. She heard him hum a little tune. He did not check. He saw the name Tiffany Love and assumed the variable was correct. He saw the label on the box and did not look inside to see that the rocks had been replaced with justice. Lily looked at me, her eyes shining with pride. I knew he was going to send the money, Mommy. I knew he was going to steal from us. So I made sure that if he pressed the button, the money would come to me. I figured if I have the money, I can pay for my own college and maybe buy you a new car so you do not have to drive the loud one. She took another bite of her cereal. Was that bad? Mommy? Was it stealing? I looked at my child. I looked at the little girl who liked cartoons and teddy bears, who had just executed a financial intercept that would make a hacker jealous. I shook my head, tears streaming down my face. No, baby. It was not stealing. You were protecting what was ours. You were the shield. I looked at Keisha. Keisha was staring at Lily with her mouth slightly open. That is the smartest thing I have ever heard, Keisha whispered. The variable swap. The bait and switch. He saw what he wanted to see. Confirmation bias. He saw the name Tiffany and his brain filled in the rest. He never verified the data string. Keisha stood up and walked over to Lily. She high-fived her. You are a genius, Lily. You just saved your mother's life. Lily smiled, a big gap-toothed smile. I just wanted to use my coding, she said. I sat back on the stool, feeling a wave of relief so profound it made me dizzy. The brilliance of it was in the simplicity. Jason was arrogant. He was lazy. He trusted his own setup. He never imagined that his 8-year-old daughter would know how to edit a payee, let alone understand the concept of routing numbers. He underestimated the women in his life. He underestimated me, thinking I was weak. And he underestimated Lily, thinking she was just a child. That was his fatal flaw. And now, thanks to a lesson about variables and a few minutes of courage while the shower was running, Jason was flying toward a destination where he had nothing. The money he thought he was wiring to his mistress was sitting safely in a government-protected account, accumulating interest for the daughter he had abandoned. The flashback ended. We were back in Keisha's kitchen. The rain was still hammering against the windows, but the sound was no longer threatening. It sounded like applause. I looked at the iPad screen again. I looked at the transfer confirmation, Tiffany Love, but the numbers told the truth. I looked at Keisha. "So what happens when he lands?" I asked. "What happens when he tries to access the money he thinks is in Tiffany's account?" Keisha grinned. "He will check his balance. It will be zero. He will scream at Tiffany. She will check her account. It will be zero. They will turn on each other. He will blame the bank. He will try to trace the transfer. And when he sees where it went?" I asked. Keisha laughed. A cold, hard laugh. "When he sees it went to a custodial Roth IRA, he will realize he is trapped. He cannot withdraw it. He is not the owner. Lily is. And since he just liquidated the family accounts to fund it, we can prove he did it maliciously. But the beauty is, he can't undo it. The IRS penalties for unauthorized withdrawal from a minor's IRA are severe. Plus, since he is not the legal guardian anymore because he abandoned you, he has no standing to request the funds. He just donated his entire net worth to his daughter's future," Keisha said. "And he can't take it back without admitting to federal fraud." I looked at Lily. She had gone back to her game. She was defeating a dragon with a magic sword. "You got him, baby," I whispered. "You really got him." But the game was not over yet. Jason was still free. He was still in the Maldives. We had the money, but we needed the final nail in the coffin. We needed him to face the consequences of his betrayal. We needed the public execution. And for that, we had to wait for the credit card to decline. Keisha checked her watch. "He lands in 4 hours," she said. "Get some sleep, Maya. Tomorrow is going to be a very entertaining day." I did not think I could sleep. Adrenaline was coursing through my veins. But as I lay down next to Lily in the massive guest bed, listening to her soft breathing, I felt a sense of peace I had not felt in years. I closed my eyes and imagined Jason's face. I imagined the moment the waiter brought the bill. I imagined the moment the smile wiped off his face. I drifted off to sleep with that image in my mind. It was the best sleep I had had in a decade. When I woke up, the sun was shining. The storm had passed. And the notification on my phone told me that the real storm, Jason's storm, was just beginning. I knelt down in front of the sofa, bringing my face level with my daughter's. The adrenaline was still humming in my veins, but now it was mixed with a frantic need for clarity. I needed to understand the mechanics of what she had done. I needed to know if this was a mistake we could fix or a weapon we could use. "Lily," I said, keeping my voice soft and steady. "You said you swapped the numbers. You said you sent the money to your account. But baby, you do not have a bank account. You are 8 years old." Lily took another bite of her cereal, chewing slowly while she thought about her answer. She swallowed and wiped a drop of milk from her chin with the back of her hand. "I know I don't have a real bank account, Mommy," she said matter-of-factly. "I did not know your numbers. You keep your blue notebook hidden in the pantry, and I could not reach it without making noise." She paused, looking down at the iPad. "So I used the numbers from the game." I frowned. "The game?" "Yes," Lily continued. "The investing game Daddy lets me play sometimes. He put an app on my iPad a long time ago. He said it was to teach me how to be a rich person like him. He said it was a simulator. You know, like how I play the flight simulator, but I am not really flying a plane." I looked over at Keisha. She had stopped typing. She was leaning against the marble counter holding her wine glass, her eyes narrowed in concentration. "What game is she talking about?" Maya Keisha asked. I shook my head. I vaguely remembered Jason mentioning something about financial literacy for kids. He had bragged to our friends at a dinner party once that he was teaching Lily about the stock market before she could even read. I had thought it was just another one of his narcissistic exaggerations, a way to make himself look like Father of the Year while he was actually ignoring her to watch football. "I do not know," I said. "Lily, show Auntie Keisha the game." Lily tapped the home button on the old iPad. She swiped through pages of colorful icons, Roblox, Minecraft, YouTube Kids. Then she stopped on a folder labeled Daddy's Stuff. She opened it. There was a single app inside. It was not a game app. It did not have a cartoon mascot or bright colors. It had a serious dark blue logo that looked like a shield. Vanguard. Keisha choked on her wine. She set the glass down hard on the counter. That is not a game, Keisha whispered. That is a brokerage app. Lily tapped the icon. Since the iPad was old and Jason had set it up years ago, it used Face ID. But because Jason had set it up for Lily to use, he had registered her face as an alternate user. The app unlocked. "See," Lily said, pointing to the screen. "It is the money game. Daddy put $500 of play money in here a long time ago. He told me to pick stocks. I picked Disney and Apple because I like their movies and iPads." She tapped the portfolio tab. I watched the screen load. My heart was pounding. The balance appeared. It was not $500. It was $185,542. The number was green, it was bold, and it was very, very real. I gasped. I covered my mouth with my hand. Lily looked confused. "Did I win the game, Mommy?" she asked. "The number got really big." Keisha walked over. She moved slowly like she was approaching a bomb that might explode. She took the iPad from Lily's hands and stared at the screen. She tapped on the account details. She scrolled down to the account type. Then she looked up at me. Her expression was a mixture of shock and terrifying delight. "Maya," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "Do you know what this is?" I shook my head. "I see the money, Keisha. I see it is there. But can we get it? Can Jason get it?" Keisha turned the screen toward me. She pointed to the text at the top of the account profile. "Custodial Roth IRA." I stared at the words. I knew what an IRA was. It was a retirement account, but I did not understand the implications. Keisha let out a breath. She started to pace the kitchen floor, her heels clicking rapidly. "He is such an idiot," she muttered. "He is such a greedy, arrogant, beautiful idiot." "Keisha." "Talk to me," I pleaded. "What does it mean?" She stopped pacing and looked at me. "Jason opened this account 5 years ago," she explained. "I remember now. He called me asking about tax shelters. He wanted to know how to shift income to avoid paying taxes in his higher bracket. I told him he could hire his child, pay her a salary, and put it into a Roth IRA. It grows tax-free." She pointed at the iPad. "He must have opened this for Lily, deposited the minimum to get it started, and then forgot about it. He probably told her it was a game so she would not tell you about his secret stash. He was using our daughter as a tax loophole, Maya." She laughed, a sharp, barking sound. "But here is the thing about a custodial Roth IRA. In the eyes of the United States government, that money does not belong to Jason. It does not belong to you. It belongs 100% to Lily." She walked back to the counter and picked up her laptop. "I need to explain the law to you, Maya, so you understand just how deep the grave is that Jason just dug for himself." She started typing, reading aloud as she pulled up the statutes. Rule number 1. Contributions to a custodial IRA are irrevocable. That means once the money is in, you cannot just say oops and take it back. It is a legal gift to the minor. Rule number 2. She continued, her voice gaining strength. The custodian that is Jason manages the assets, but he is legally bound by fiduciary duty to use them only for the benefit of the child. He cannot use that money to buy a house. He cannot use it to pay off gambling debts. He definitely cannot use it to fund a vacation in the Maldives with a yoga instructor. But he is the custodian, I argued, playing devil's advocate. Can't he just log in and transfer it back out? Keisha grinned. That is the best part. She turned the laptop screen toward me. If you withdraw earnings from a Roth IRA before age 59 and a half, you get hit with taxes. If you withdraw it for non-qualified expenses, you get hit with a 10% penalty. But that is just for normal people. She leaned in close. For a custodian stealing from a minor, it is so much worse. If Jason tries to move that money out tomorrow, the brokerage firm will flag it because it is a massive sum, leaving a dormant account. They will file a suspicious activity report. That goes straight to the IRS and the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. She held up 3 fingers. 1. He will be audited. They will see he liquidated his assets and dumped them into a child's account, which looks exactly like money laundering. 2. The penalties for an unqualified distribution of this size will be nearly 50%. The government will take half the money just as a fine. 3. And this is the kicker. Since he is currently fleeing the country and abandoning his family, if he touches that money, I can have him charged with embezzlement of a minor's estate. That is a federal crime, Maya. That is FBI territory. I looked at Lily. She was back to playing on the iPad, oblivious to the fact that she was now the owner of a small fortune that was surrounded by an invisible electric fence. "So he is trapped," I whispered. "He is worse than trapped," Keisha said. "He is in a cage of his own making. He sent the money to a place where he can see it, but he cannot touch it. It is the honey trap. He thought he was being clever hiding money in the past. He thought he was being clever stealing money in the present. And those two clever ideas just collided to destroy him." Keisha poured herself more wine. She looked almost giddy. "Imagine his face, Maya. He is going to land. He is going to open his banking app to pay for his hotel. He will see the transfer went through. He will think he is safe. Then he will look for the money in Tiffany's account. It won't be there. He will panic," I said, picturing it. "He will check his transfer history," Keisha said. "He will see the routing number. He will realize it went to the MoneyGame account. He will try to log into Vanguard." Keisha picked up her phone. "And that is why we have to do one more thing right now," what I asked. "We need to change the password," Keisha said. She walked over to Lily. "Lily, baby, can I see the iPad for a second?" Lily handed it over. Keisha went into the settings of the Vanguard app. "Jason is the custodian," she said, typing furiously. "But the account is linked to the email address on this device. And since he was lazy and used the same password for everything," she tapped the screen, "I am changing the login credentials. I am adding two-factor authentication. And I am sending the code to my phone, not his." She hit a final button. "Done." She handed the iPad back to Lily. "There. Now, even if he realizes where the money is, he cannot even log in to look at it. He is locked out of the bank, locked out of the account, and locked out of the country." I stood up and walked to the window. The rain had stopped. The moon was trying to break through the clouds. I thought about the last 10 years. I thought about the times Jason had yelled at me for buying brand-name cereal instead of generic. I thought about the times he had told me I was bad with money. I thought about the fear I had felt standing in the pharmacy parking lot. It was all gone. In its place was a cold, hard satisfaction. He stole from us to start a new life. And in doing so, he accidentally funded the very life he was trying to destroy. Keisha came up behind me. "You know what this means, right, Maya?" What I asked. "It means you have leverage. You have the ultimate leverage. When he calls you, and he will call you, you do not have to beg. You do not have to scream. You just have to tell him the truth." I smiled. "I will tell him that his daughter is winning the game," I said. "Exactly," Keisha said. She clinked her glass against the window pane. "To the twist," she said. "To the twist," I whispered back. But as I looked at the reflection of my daughter in the glass, I knew this wasn't just a twist. It was justice. It was poetic, brutal, beautiful justice, and I could not wait to hear the phone ring. Because when Jason called, he wouldn't be talking to his victim anymore. He would be talking to the mother of the girl who owned him. Keisha looked at the iPad screen one last time, verifying the beautiful, irrevocable reality of the numbers. Then she threw her head back and let out a laugh that shook the crystal wine glasses on the counter. "Oh my God," she gasped, wiping a tear of pure joy from her eye. She looked at Lily, who was busy trying to get a piece of marshmallow out of her teeth. "You are not just smart, baby girl. You are dangerous. You are my favorite person in the entire world right now. My genius niece." She walked over and kissed the top of Lily's head, leaving a smudge of dark berry lipstick on her forehead. Lily giggled and pushed her away, but I could see the pride beaming from her face. She knew she had done something big. She knew she had pleased the formidable Auntie Keisha. Keisha turned to me, and the laughter faded from her face, replaced by a cold, calculating mask of a war general. "Now listen to me, Maya," she said, her voice dropping to a serious whisper. "This is the most important part. This is where we win or lose." I leaned forward on the stool. "What do we do?" I asked. "Do we call the police now? Do we call the bank and tell them to lock it down?" Keisha shook her head violently. "No," she commanded. "We do absolutely nothing." I frowned. Nothing. But he is getting away. He is not getting away, Keisha corrected. He is flying into a trap. But for the trap to work perfectly, for the snap to be clean and devastating, the mouse has to believe the cheese is free. She began to pace the kitchen again, her heels clicking a rhythmic beat on the floor. "We enter phase 3, she declared. Strategic silence. She stopped and looked at me. If we call him now and scream, if we tell him we know about the money, what will he do? He will panic. He will land and immediately start trying to mitigate the damage. He might find a shady lawyer in the Maldives. He might try to borrow money from loan sharks to cover his tracks. He might go into hiding." She leaned in close, her eyes intense. "But if we say nothing, if we let him believe he got away with it, what will he do then?" I thought about Jason. I thought about his arrogance. I thought about his need to show off. "He will spend money," I whispered. "Exactly," Keisha said, slamming her hand on the counter. "He thinks he has $185,000 waiting for him. He has a wallet full of credit cards that are currently maxed out or close to it, but he will use them anyway. He will override the limits. He will put down his Amex for the 5-star suite. He will order the vintage champagne. He will buy Tiffany a diamond anklet at the duty-free shop." She grinned a predatory smile. "He is going to spend money he does not have, counting on money he can never reach. We are going to let him dig a financial grave so deep that by the time he realizes he does not have a ladder, the dirt will already be burying him." I understood. It was cruel. It was ruthless. And it was perfect. "So we just wait?" I asked. "We wait," Keisha confirmed. "We let him land. We let him turn on his phone. We let him feel like the king of the world." She paused, tapping her chin with a manicured fingernail. "But we need to make sure he feels safe. We need to feed his ego one last time. We need him to be so confident, so relaxed, that he lowers every single defense he has." She looked at me. "You need to send him an email." I recoiled. "I do not want to talk to him, Keisha. I might vomit." "You do not have to talk to him," Keisha said. "You just have to write to him. And you are not going to write as the strong woman who knows the truth. You are going to write as the broken, defeated wife he thinks you are." She handed me her laptop. "Write it," she ordered. "Tell him he wins. Tell him you are too tired to fight. Tell him you accept that he is gone. Stroke his ego, Maya. Make him feel like he conquered you, because a man who thinks he has won stops looking over his shoulder." I took the laptop. My hands were shaking. The idea of playing the victim one more time made my skin crawl. I wanted to scream at him. I wanted to type in all caps that he was a thief and a loser and that his daughter was smarter than him. But I looked at Lily. I looked at the iPad with the locked funds. I took a deep breath. Keisha was right. This was not about venting. This was about execution. I opened a new email draft. I typed Jason's address. Subject, you win. I stared at the blinking cursor. I channeled the old Maya, the Maya who was afraid of him. The Maya who apologized when he spilled his own coffee. Jason, I typed. I am sitting here in the dark. The house is empty. It is raining. I have been crying for hours, but I am done now. I realized something tonight. You were right. I was holding you back. I was boring. I was safe. You deserve to be happy, even if it means destroying me to get there. I paused. I looked up at Keisha. She nodded encouragingly. Keep going, she whispered. Make it pathetic. I continued typing. I see the pictures of you and Tiffany. She is beautiful. She is everything I am not. I hope she makes you happy. I really do. Regarding the money, I am not going to fight you for it. I do not have the energy. I do not have the money for a lawyer. You took it all, so I guess it is yours now. Consider it a gift. Just promise me you will use some of it to buy something nice for Lily one day. I felt a surge of bile in my throat as I typed those words. I am going to take Lily and go stay with my parents in Ohio. I am changing my number. Do not try to find us. I just want to disappear. Goodbye, Jason. You won. I sat back. I felt dirty. Keisha read it over my shoulder. Perfect, she said softly. Absolutely perfect. He reads that and he pops another bottle of champagne. He reads that and he thinks he is in the clear. He will not check his accounts. He will not worry about a restraining order. He will walk into that resort like he owns the place. Send it, she said. I hovered my finger over the send button. This was the final seal on the trap. Once I sent this, there was no going back. I was officially playing the game on Keisha's level. I pressed send. The whoosh sound of the email leaving the outbox seemed to echo in the quiet kitchen. Gone. I looked at Keisha. Now what? Keisha picked up her wine glass. She swirled the dark red liquid. Now, she said, her voice smooth as velvet, we go to sleep. And while we sleep, Jason is going to land in paradise. He is going to turn on his phone. He is going to see your email. He is going to laugh at you. He is going to show Tiffany. They are going to toast to their victory. She took a sip of wine. And then he is going to hand his credit card to the hotel receptionist. And that my dear sister-in-law is when the real show begins. I closed the laptop. I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. It was the calm of a sniper waiting for the target to walk into the crosshairs. I looked at Lily, who had fallen asleep on the sofa, the iPad still clutched in her hand like a shield. He thinks I am weak, I thought. He thinks I am defeated. Let him think that. Let him enjoy his flight. Let him enjoy the view from 40,000 feet. Because the fall from that height is going to be spectacular. I stood up and walked over to Keisha. Thank you, I said. Do not thank me yet, she replied, her eyes glittering in the low light. Thank me when we own his Audi. Thank me when he is trading cigarettes for protection in a federal prison. She turned off the kitchen lights, plunging us into darkness. Game on, Jason, she whispered into the dark. Game on. 12 hours later, while I was pouring syrup on Lily's waffles in Keisha's warm, safe kitchen, Jason was striding into a glass-walled dealership in Miami. He had a 6-hour layover before his final flight to the Maldives, and Tiffany had decided that she simply could not wait to start spending her new fortune. She wanted a car waiting for her in storage for when they eventually returned to the States, a little welcome home present to herself for destroying a family. I know exactly what happened next because the dealership had security cameras, and thanks to Keisha's relentless private investigators, I eventually saw the footage. But even without the video, I could have scripted it. I knew Jason. I knew his walk. I knew that arrogant, chest-puffed strut he adopted when he thought he was the richest man in the room. He walked into the Porsche dealership like he owned the building. He was wearing a linen suit that probably cost more than my first car and sunglasses he did not take off inside. Tiffany was hanging on his arm, pointing at a bright yellow 911 GT3 RS that sat on a rotating platform in the center of the showroom. It was loud, it was flashy, and it was completely unnecessary. It was perfect for them. A salesman in a sharp blue suit hurried over, smelling the commission. I could see the way he looked at Jason's watch at Tiffany's jewelry. He saw a whale. He started the pitch talking about horsepower and torque, but Jason waved him off. Jason did not care about the engine. He cared about the price tag. He wanted to spend money. He wanted to feel the rush of the transaction. "Wrap it up," Jason said, his voice booming in the quiet showroom. "We have a plane to catch, full options, ceramic brakes, the works." The salesman beamed. He led them to a pristine white desk. He offered them espresso. He offered them sparkling water. Jason sat back in the leather chair, crossing his legs, looking at Tiffany with a smug grin. He was probably thinking about my email. He was probably thinking about me sitting in the dark, crying over my poverty, while he was about to drop $200,000 on a toy. The salesman presented the invoice. Jason did not even look at the total. He reached into his wallet and pulled out his Platinum American Express. He tossed it onto the desk with a casual flick of the wrist. "Put it on the plastic," Jason said. "I want the points." The salesman picked up the card with two hands, treating it like a holy relic. He walked over to the terminal. He inserted the chip. Jason took a sip of his espresso. He winked at Tiffany. The room was silent for a moment, save for the low hum of the air conditioning. Then there was a sound, a sharp, dissonant beep. The salesman frowned. He looked at the screen. He pulled the card out and wiped the chip on his sleeve. He inserted it again. Beep. The salesman's smile faltered. He looked up at Jason, a look of polite confusion on his face. "I am sorry, Mr. Miller," the salesman said. "It says declined." Jason laughed. It was a loud, incredulous laugh. "Don't be ridiculous," Jason said. "Run it again. It is probably your Wi-Fi. That card has no limit." The salesman nodded nervously. He typed in the numbers manually this time. He hit enter. The machine thought for a second. Then it beeped again. A long, flat tone of rejection. Declined. Contact issuer. Jason's smile vanished. He sat up straighter. He snatched the card from the desk. "There is something wrong with your machine," he snapped. "Here, try this one." He pulled out his Visa, the one connected to the joint account he had just emptied, the one he thought was flush with cash. The salesman swiped it. Declined. Jason pulled out a third card. His MasterCard. Declined. The silence in the dealership was now deafening. Tiffany shifted in her seat, looking around to see if anyone was watching. The salesman was no longer smiling. The respect in his eyes had been replaced by suspicion. Jason stood up. His face was turning a dangerous shade of red. A vein in his forehead began to throb. "This is bullshit," Jason shouted. "I have hundreds of thousands of dollars in those accounts. I am going to make a phone call, and when I come back, you are going to apologize to me." He stormed away from the desk, walking toward the floor-to-ceiling windows looking out over the Miami heat. He pulled out his phone and dialed the private wealth management line for our bank. He put it on speaker, his arrogance so blinding he did not even care who heard. I watched the footage of him pacing back and forth. I could see him shouting at the automated voice prompt. Finally, a human connected. "This is Jason Miller," he barked. "Why are my cards declining?" "I'm trying to buy a car and you are making me look like an idiot." "Mr. Miller." "Please hold for a moment while I access your security profile," the voice on the other end said. It was a man's voice, calm and professional. Jason tapped his foot impatiently. He looked back at Tiffany and gave her a thumbs up, mouthing, "It's a glitch." Then the banker came back on the line. The tone of his voice had changed. It was no longer the polite customer service voice. It was cold. It was official. It was the voice of a man reading a script prepared by a legal department. "Mr. Miller," the banker said, "I cannot authorize any transactions on your cards today. In fact, I am required to inform you that all of your accounts with this institution have been frozen effective immediately." "Frozen?" Jason screamed. "What are you talking about? I just transferred $185,000 yesterday. I have the receipt." "Yes, we see the transfer," the banker said. "And that is the problem." Jason stopped pacing. "What problem?" "Mr. Miller, the destination account for that wire transfer was flagged by our internal security algorithm. The funds were directed into a custodial Roth IRA held in the name of a minor Lily Miller." Jason froze. He held the phone away from his ear for a second, staring at it as if it had turned into a snake. So Jason stammered, "That is my daughter. I am the custodian. Move the money back." "It was a mistake. I meant to send it to another account." "I cannot do that, sir," the banker said. "And frankly, neither can you. Attempting to liquidate family assets and immediately deposit them into a tax-advantaged custodial account triggers an automatic review under the Bank Secrecy Act. But that is not the only issue." "What is the issue?" Jason hissed. His voice was dropping. He was starting to sweat. "The issue, sir, is that the routing number on that transfer did not match the payee name you entered. You entered Tiffany Love, but the funds went to the custodial account. This discrepancy, combined with the immediate attempt to spend large sums of credit in a different state, has triggered a federal fraud investigation." Jason leaned against the glass wall. His legs looked like they were about to give out. "Federal?" he whispered. "Yes, Mr. Miller. The system flagged this as potential money laundering and embezzlement of a minor's assets. Because the amount exceeds $10,000 and crossed state lines, the FBI has been automatically notified. Your accounts are locked pending the investigation. We cannot release any funds, and we cannot close the accounts." Jason looked around the showroom. The bright yellow Porsche seemed to be mocking him. The salesman was pretending to look at paperwork, but he was listening. Tiffany was scrolling on her phone, looking bored, unaware that her sugar daddy had just become radioactive. "You have to fix this." Jason pleaded, his arrogance completely gone. "I am at a dealership. I need to pay for a car. Just unlock the credit card. I will sort out the transfer later." "I'm afraid I cannot do that," the banker said. "Your credit lines are secured by your liquid assets. Since your assets are frozen under a fraud alert, your credit lines are effectively zero. You have no available balance, Mr. Miller." Jason ended the call. He did not say goodbye. He just pressed the red button. He stood there for a long moment staring at his reflection in the glass. He looked older. He looked smaller. The titan of industry, the man who was too good for his boring wife, the man who deserved to fly first class, was standing in a luxury car dealership with absolutely nothing. He had no cash. He had no credit. He had no access to the money he had stolen because his 8-year-old daughter had tricked him into locking it away in a federal vault. He walked back to the desk. He did not sit down. "Is everything resolved, sir?" the salesman asked, his voice dripping with false politeness. Jason swallowed hard. He looked at Tiffany. We have to go," Jason said, his voice cracking. "There is a fraud alert on my cards. Someone tried to hack me. I have to go to the bank branch to sort it out." He grabbed Tiffany's arm. "Come on," he said, pulling her up. Tiffany pulled back. "But what about the car, Jason? I posted it on my story already. We are not getting the car." Jason snapped loud enough for the whole room to hear. "Not today." He dragged her toward the exit. He wanted to get out of there. He wanted to get to the airport. He wanted to flee. But as he pushed open the glass doors and stepped out into the humid Miami heat, he did not see a taxi waiting for him. He saw flashing lights, blue and red, reflecting off the polished hood of the Porsche he could not buy. Jason stopped. He looked left. He looked right. 2 police cruisers were blocking the dealership driveway, and standing by the lead car, arms crossed, wearing a windbreaker that said FBI, was a woman who looked like she had been waiting for this moment all morning. Jason dropped his phone. It shattered on the pavement, just like his life was about to. He had walked into the trap, and the cage door had just slammed shut. The phone in my hand vibrated violently against the marble countertop. It was a FaceTime request. Jason was not just calling me. He wanted to see me. He probably wanted to see me crying. He wanted to see the fear in my eyes so he could feel powerful again. I looked at Keisha. She was standing by the sink, finishing her glass of wine. She saw the screen and smiled. It was a cold, terrifying smile that did not reach her eyes. She nodded at me. She signaled for me to answer it, but to put it on speaker. She moved closer, standing just out of the frame of the camera, ready to strike. I took a deep breath. My heart was pounding, not from fear this time, but from the sheer anticipation of the kill. I tapped the green button. Jason's face filled the screen. He looked deranged. His hair was messy, sweat was beading on his forehead, and his eyes were wild. I could see the reflection of blue and red flashing lights dancing across his face. He was holding the phone close, the camera shaking as he paced back and forth on the hot pavement. "Maya!" He screamed my name. It was not a greeting. It was an accusation. "What did you do? What did you do to my money?" He was shouting so loud the audio distorted. "I tried to buy a car and they humiliated me. The bank says my accounts are frozen. They say it is fraud. You did this. I know you did this. You called them and made up some lie about me stealing your identity, didn't you? Fix it. Fix it right now, Maya, or I swear to God I will make your life a living hell." I just looked at him. I looked at the man who had abandoned his sick child in a rainstorm. I looked at the man who had laughed at my pain just hours ago. I did not say a word. I just stared at him with a calmness that I knew was driving him insane. "Answer me," he roared. "Undo it. Call the bank and tell them it was a mistake. Tell them I have permission. I need that money, Maya. I need to get on that plane." I finally spoke. My voice was steady. It was the voice of a woman who had already mourned the death of her marriage and was now burying the corpse. "I cannot fix it, Jason, and I did not call the bank." "Liar!" He spat the word. "Then why is the money gone? Why is it saying the transfer went to a restricted account?" I shifted the phone slightly. I tilted it so the camera angle widened. I revealed the person standing next to me. "Hello, Jason." Keisha stepped into the frame. She was not smiling anymore. She looked like a judge delivering a death sentence. Her arms were crossed over her chest. Her eyes bore into the camera lens. Jason froze. The color drained from his face. He stopped pacing. "Keisha," he stammered, "what are you doing there? I am representing your wife and daughter." Keisha said, her voice crisp and lethal. "And to answer your question, Maya did not move the money." "You did. What are you talking about?" Jason yelled, looking over his shoulder at the approaching police officers. "I sent it to Tiffany. I have the receipt. No, Jason, You sent it to a variable labeled Tiffany. Keisha explained, speaking slowly, as if she were talking to a toddler. But the routing number underneath belonged to a Vanguard Custodial Roth IRA, specifically the one you opened for Lily 5 years ago. Jason blinked. His mouth opened and closed. "Lily," he whispered. "Yes," Keisha continued. "You emptied your joint accounts and deposited $185,000 directly into a federal retirement trust for your minor daughter." She leaned closer to the phone. "And here is the legal reality, Jason. Under Washington State Revised Code and federal banking regulations, once those funds hit that custodial account, they became the irrevocable property of Lily Miller. They are not yours anymore. You cannot withdraw them. You cannot transfer them. And since you attempted to liquidate marital assets and hide them in a child's tax shelter while fleeing the country, you have committed what we in the legal profession call embezzlement and wire fraud." Jason looked sick. He looked like he was about to vomit on his expensive shoes. "No," he gasped. "No. That is a mistake. I can explain. It was an accident. It does not matter." Keisha cut him off. "The system flagged it. The FBI was notified automatically because of the amount. You are not a victim of a hack, Jason. You are a victim of your own greed and your own daughter's brilliance. Lily changed the payee information on your phone. She outsmarted you. I saw the realization hit him. I saw the moment his brain processed that his 8-year-old child, the one he had called a burden, had just destroyed him. You set me up," he whimpered. "We did not set you up," I said, speaking up for the first time. "We just let you pull the trigger." Before he could respond, I heard a voice in the background on his end. It was a deep, authoritative voice. "Jason Miller." Jason spun around. The camera whipped wildly, giving us a blurry view of the scene. I saw the FBI agent I had seen on the security footage earlier. She was walking toward him, her hand resting on her holster. Behind her, 2 uniformed Miami police officers were flanking the exit. "Put the phone down and put your hands in the air," the agent commanded. Jason turned back to the phone. His eyes were wide with terror. "Maya, help me," he begged. Tell them it is a misunderstanding. Please, I will come home. We can work this out." "I love you, Maya. I love Lily. Don't let them take me." I looked at him. I felt a twinge of pity, but it was the kind of pity you feel for a bug right before you crush it. "It is too late, Jason," I said softly. "You made your choice." I saw the phone fall. It tumbled to the ground, landing face up. The camera was now pointing at the blue sky and the palm trees of Miami. But the microphone was still on. We could hear everything. We could hear Jason screaming. "I am not a criminal. This is my money. I am a businessman." We heard the scuffle. We heard the sound of a body being slammed against the hood of a car. We heard the distinct metallic click of handcuffs tightening. "You are under arrest for wire fraud, bank fraud, and attempted flight to avoid prosecution." The agent's voice was clear. "You have the right to remain silent." Then we heard a woman's voice, high-pitched and frantic. "Officer! Officer, wait!" It was Tiffany. She must have been standing just out of frame. "I do not know him." She screamed. I winced. Even I felt the sting of that betrayal. "What?" We heard Jason's muffled voice. "Tiffany, what are you saying? I am a victim here." Tiffany yelled, her voice getting further away as if she was backing up. "He told me he was divorced. He told me he was a millionaire. I didn't know he stole money from a kid. I am just his yoga instructor. I don't want any trouble." "Tiffany?" "No!" Jason cried out. "You are coming with me. We are partners. I am not your partner," Tiffany shrieked. "You are a loser, Jason. You are broke. Stay away from me." We heard the click of heels running away on the pavement. She did not look back. She left him there, cuffed against a car he could not buy, arrested for stealing money he could not touch. The audio on the phone picked up heavy breathing. It was Jason. He was crying. He was sobbing like a child. I watched the patch of blue sky on my screen. I listened to the man who had destroyed my life fall apart. Keisha reached over. Her hand hovered over the red button. "Do you want to say anything else?" she asked me. I shook my head. "No," I said. "I think Lily said everything that needed to be said." Keisha tapped the screen. The connection ended. The silence returned to the kitchen. I sat there for a long moment staring at the black screen of my phone. I took a deep breath, my lungs filled with air that felt cleaner, lighter. "He is gone," I whispered. "He is gone," Keisha confirmed, "and he is not coming back for a very long time." I looked down at my hands. They were steady. The shaking had stopped. I stood up and walked to the fridge. I opened it and took out a juice box for Lily. "Is it over?" I asked. Keisha smiled. "The drama is over," she said. "Now the paperwork begins. But do not worry, Maya. I love paperwork, especially when I am writing the terms of his surrender." I walked into the living room. Lily was awake. She was watching a cartoon. She looked up at me when I entered. "Was that Daddy on the phone?" she asked. "Yes, baby," I said, sitting down next to her. "Is he still going to the Maldives?" she asked. "No," I said, smoothing her hair. "He is going to stay in Miami for a while, in a very small room." Lily nodded, accepting this information. "Did he like my trick?" she asked. I smiled. I thought about Jason's face when Keisha told him the truth. "Yes," I said. He was very surprised. Lily smiled. "Good. Can we go get the dog now?" I laughed. It was a real laugh, a happy laugh. "Yes," I said. "Get your shoes on. We are going to the shelter right now." As I watched my daughter tie her shoes, I knew that we were going to be okay. We had lost the house. We had lost the life I thought I wanted. But we had won something much more important. We had won our freedom, and we had done it without throwing a single punch. We just let the bad guy defeat himself. And that, I realized, was the sweetest revenge of all. We watched the screen go dark, but the image of Jason being shoved into the back of a police cruiser was burned into my mind forever. It was not just the arrest that broke him. It was the audience. In Miami, nothing stays private for long. As the FBI agent marched him from the dealership entrance to the waiting car, a crowd had gathered. They were not fans. They were onlookers with smartphones live streaming the downfall of a man who thought he was untouchable. I could see the comments popping up on a feed Keisha had found online. They were ruthless. They called him a loser. They laughed at his suit. They mocked the way he tried to hide his face from the cameras. For a narcissist like Jason, this was a fate worse than prison. He thrived on admiration. He needed people to envy him. Now he was just content for strangers on the internet, a viral moment of humiliation that would follow him for the rest of his life. He had lost the Porsche. He had lost the 23-year-old mistress who sprinted away the moment the handcuffs came out. He had lost the $185,000 that was now sitting safely in his daughter's retirement fund. And most importantly, he had lost his freedom. Keisha set her phone down on the counter and looked at me with a solemn expression. She did not look happy exactly. She looked satisfied, like a mathematician who had just balanced a complex equation. She told me the reality of what Jason was facing. She said that because of the amount of money, the interstate nature of the crime, and the attempt to defraud a protected custodial account, the federal prosecutors would not be lenient. She estimated 5 to 10 years in a federal penitentiary. 5 to 10 years. I let that sink in. By the time Jason walked free, Lily would be driving. She would be graduating high school. She would be a young woman who barely remembered the father who tried to steal her future. He would miss it all. He would miss the piano recitals. He would miss the science fairs. He would miss the prom photos. He traded a decade of his daughter's life for a first-class ticket to nowhere. I looked at the blank screen one last time. I did not feel the urge to call him back. I did not feel the urge to gloat. The anger that had fueled me for the last 24 hours had evaporated, leaving behind a profound sense of exhaustion and relief. It was over. The man who had controlled my finances, critiqued my appearance, and belittled my dreams was gone. He was just a number in a system now. Keisha poured the last of the wine into her glass and raised it in a silent toast. She did not say a word. She did not have to. The silence in the kitchen was not heavy anymore. It was light. It was the silence of a fresh start. I turned away from the phone and looked out the window at the Seattle skyline. The rain had stopped completely. The clouds were breaking apart, revealing a patch of blue sky that looked brighter than I had ever seen it. I took a deep breath, filling my lungs with the air of a woman who finally owned her own life. It has been exactly 6 months since the day the police lights reflected off the hood of that yellow Porsche in Miami. 6 months since I watched the man I vowed to spend my life with get dragged away in handcuffs while strangers live-streamed his downfall. People ask me if I feel guilty. They ask if I feel bad for the father of my child sitting in a federal detention center awaiting trial for wire fraud and embezzlement. I look them in the eye and I tell them the absolute truth. I do not feel guilty. I feel free. The rain in Seattle is still the same. It still drizzles gray and constant against the windows, but it looks different to me now. It does not look like gloom anymore. It looks like nourishment. It looks like the water that washes away the dirt to let something new grow. And oh my God, have we grown. Thanks to Keisha, who I am convinced is actually a sorceress disguised as a lawyer, we got everything back. She went into that courtroom like a gladiator. She argued that since Jason's transfer to the custodial account was an attempt to defraud the marital estate during an abandonment, she petitioned the court to appoint me as the sole legal guardian of Lily's financial assets. The judge did not just agree with her. He scolded Jason's defense attorney for 30 minutes. We kept the money in the Roth IRA. It is still there. It is sitting in that Vanguard account, earning compound interest, ticking upward every single day. It is a fortress that guarantees Lily will go to any college she wants. She will never have to start her life with debt like I did. She will start with freedom. But it wasn't just about the money. It was about the respect. 2 weeks after Jason was arrested, I walked into my boss's office. The old Maya would have sat in the corner and waited to be noticed. The old Maya would have accepted the 3% cost of living raise and said thank you. But the Maya who survived the storm did not do that. I sat down. I put a report on his desk that showed exactly how much value I brought to the company. I told him I wanted the senior analyst position. I told him I wanted a 20% raise. And I told him if I did not get it, I would walk out the door and take my skills to a competitor. He looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. He gave me the promotion. He gave me the raise. I realized that for 10 years, I had been shrinking myself to fit into the small space Jason allowed me to occupy. I am done shrinking. I am taking up space now. I am loud. I am visible. And I am successful. We moved out of Keisha's house last month. We did not go back to a rental. With my promotion and the financial security of knowing Lily's future is covered, I bought a place. It is not a mansion. It is a townhome with a small fenced yard. But it is ours. My name is on the deed. Only my name. And in that small fenced yard, there is a chaos of fur and energy running around. We kept our promise. His name is Pixel. He is a golden retriever mix with big goofy paws and a tail that never stops wagging. He sleeps at the foot of Lily's bed every night. He is the guardian she deserves. Speaking of guardians, Lily is doing better than anyone could have imagined. Children are resilient, but my daughter is not just resilient, she is a force of nature. She sits at the kitchen island in our new home, typing away on her brand new iPad Pro. It was the first thing I bought her when the dust settled. She is not playing Roblox anymore. She is learning Python. She is learning about cybersecurity. She told me she wants to be a white hat hacker when she grows up. She wants to catch bad guys who steal from people. Yesterday I was cooking dinner, and I looked over at her. She was so focused, her little eyebrows furrowed in concentration, just like mine do. I walked over and kissed the top of her head. "What are you working on, baby?" I asked her. She looked up. Her eyes were bright and intelligent. "I am building a firewall, Mommy," she said, "to keep our network safe, so nobody can ever get in again." I smiled. I thought about the text replacement trick. I thought about the way she coolly ate her cereal while her father's life imploded. "You are really good at this," I said. Lily shrugged. She turned the screen toward me to show me lines of code that looked like a foreign language to me. "Mommy," she said, "remember when Daddy left?" I nodded. It was the first time she had mentioned him in weeks. "Yes, baby, I remember. Remember how you were crying and you didn't know what to do?" Lily continued. I nodded again, swallowing the lump in my throat. Lily grinned, a smile that was equal parts sweet and sharp. "You were scared," she said. "But I wasn't. Because I knew I had the cheat code." She tapped the enter key with a flourish. "Mommy, don't worry," she said. "I told you I handled it." I looked at her, and I realized that she had not just handled the money. She had handled the power dynamic. She had flipped the script on a man who thought he was the director. I turned away from her to look directly at you, the person watching this video. If you are sitting there right now feeling small, if you are with someone who makes you feel like you are nothing, if you are worried that you are not strong enough to leave or smart enough to survive, please look at me. I was you. I was the woman counting coupons. I was the woman begging for affection. I was the woman who thought her life was over when her credit card declined. But I am telling you now that rock bottom is not the end. It is the foundation. It is where you build the castle that no one can tear down. And I want you to remember one very specific thing. The world will tell you to be quiet. It will tell you to be nice. It will tell you to forgive and forget. Don't listen. Trust your gut. Check the bank accounts. Look at the text messages. And above all else, never, ever underestimate the power of a woman who has been backed into a corner. We do not just bite, we devour. And specifically, do not ever, under any circumstances, underestimate a Gen Alpha kid who knows your Wi-Fi password. They see everything. They hear everything. And as Jason found out the hard way, they know how to hit delete on your entire existence. Jason calls sometimes from the detention center. I see the number pop up on my phone. Prepaid collect call from Federal Correctional Institution. I do not answer. I let it ring. I let it go to voicemail. Because I do not have anything to say to him. My silence is his punishment, and my happiness is my revenge. Thank you for watching my story. Thank you for being here. Thank you for validating my anger and celebrating my victory. If you enjoyed watching a narcissist get exactly what he deserved, please smash that like button. It helps the algorithm find other women who need to hear this message. Subscribe to the channel for more stories where karma does not just knock on the door, it kicks the door down. Leave a comment below and tell me what is the best revenge you have ever gotten. I read every single one. My name is Maya. I am a mother. I am a survivor. And I am the owner of a very healthy retirement portfolio that my ex-husband paid for. Stay strong, stay sharp, and watch your back because you never know who is changing the variables in your code. Goodbye for now.